Before we get going today, I really have to continue to do my part for Australia and everyone down under. At this point, of course, as I've mentioned before, our world is quite literally on fire, and again, just at least a large portion of it. Any support that any of you can offer for Australia, for the first responders, and for anybody that is down there trying to help out, please do so. I'll have some linked in the first pinned comment below, but seriously, I urge you guys, there are people that should be doing something about this that are choosing not to. They have many ways that they could step in and help, but they are not. This should be a global emergency, if there even is such a thing. This should be a full national emergency. This should be something that we should be just as interested in helping for like we did with the Notre Dame Cathedral when that went up in flames. So please, sit back and consider if you're able to help, even for a few bucks. Just pass the links around if you can't. Do something, because this is absolutely crucial. To every one of you down under, please stay safe. Australia, New Zealand, all of you, just please stay safe. To my fellow Guardians that are down there as well, for the larger communities that are there, please stay safe and continue to do what you are able to do. Don't consider anything else right now. Just worry about yourselves and worry about staying alive. Worry about keeping your country safe right now too. Anyway, I'm going to be staying on this soapbox for the remainder of the video, and I hope you guys do enjoy it. But again, if you can support Australia, please do so. Thank you. If you asked me what the true meaning of the holidays was when I was younger, I would tell you it was to get some gifts. Now that was like 5 or 10-year-old me not knowing much better. December 25th rolled around for me, and Christmas was just that. I didn't know what went into it. I didn't know the labors that my folks went through at the time to know what it took for them to get half of what some others might have, or how out of the way the savings and the sacrifice there needed to be in order to keep me and my sister happy on Christmas Day. If you ask me today, I kind of just look at you, because now I don't know quite as much. I'm a jaded old man that views the world through a dirty glass, and I do my best to not have that be the case. But man, is it hard when you see right through the junk that everyone tries to sell you on with spin, ulterior motive, and just altogether nothing great. My general feelings of all the sacrifice that my parents put into everything that I received as a child when I was younger just doesn't hold up quite as well anymore when you start to see what it all really was raveled to be. But there is one thing that I'll say about the holidays, and a tradition for myself since I was in my teens. It's a time to count your blessings, and a time to reflect on what you have. It's also a time to think about how you may have been over the year, and maybe a chance to change or reflect on how you treat others, either close to you or not. You might get flashes about moments that happened, and you might go, man, I could have handled that better. We're all human beings. It happens. Trouble is, what if you're met with someone that you know did a lot of wrong in their life, but now are trying to fix it? Alternatively, what if you know there's a group or a person out there that tries their absolute best, and it is their best, but they keep getting knocked down, and it just seems everything they do is just a bad move? They might deserve all the vitriol you can sling their way, not that I think anyone does, but if they genuinely try to fix whatever it is they're working on, does that still make it right? Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly, and I just wanted to post this and get a message out to those of you that might need it. Warning ahead of time, this is a bit of a soapbox, but I hope it does some good for some that might need to hear it. The games industry as a whole is not exactly a welcome or open arms place for some, and for some, they only make it hard on themselves. They question everything that's presented to them, and in some cases the industry is entirely to blame for that. We've had DLC and microtransaction kerfuffles larger than the eye can see, and it just feels like sometimes the deck is stacked against those who just want to appreciate and enjoy what's given to them, without having something else shoved in their face. But the opposite is true just as much. and it's all a very subjective and moral take on things. Anyway, I have this opening more to say that how we treat each other in circumstances we don't always agree with is just as important as what we say. Going into 2020, I'm going to be a bit harsher with some of my criticism, but I hope to never, ever cross the line of going after somebody's job or ruining what it is they have in place. Questions and input do not ultimately ask for anyone's positions or livelihood, and frankly, they never should. They are vastly needed perspective to know the path we go down. They are about respect of time and not wasting it. I carry that general sentiment into my life and my work and hope that I never do the same for you. I say, being long-winded as I generally am. I'd like to think that what I have rolling around in my head is something worth listening to, and I know from one artist to another, that same struggle is ingrained in others' heads as well, whether it be from small-time or big-time minds. I can't imagine it from the developer end, but I'm sure it's generally the same as well, or at least somewhat so with some of the management stuff I've had to deal with in my life. All of this in order to talk about a stupid lore entry. Anyway, let me read this one over for you. I should note, it's really not stupid, but you get the hint. For the last 3 weeks, the Guardian has been camping in a rusted-out shipping container far off the main pathways that are always buzzing with sparrows. He stays out of the way of other Guardians, and if he can't do that, he keeps his helmet on. Always. All he has to his name is some beat-up gear, a ring, and a silk sheet. Those are the things he woke up with. He wears the ring on a chain and keeps the sheet as a comforting reminder of something he can't remember. Sometimes he wears it draped over his shoulders. The fabric is so fine that it makes him think about the place he must have come from before his life, and how much nicer it is than where he is now. He spends his days alone. Other Guardians are an unpredictable source of pain and confusion, and they see him the same way. Some react to him with outright hostility. Others are overcome by some personal and unexplained grief. He doesn't know why. That was the most painful lesson of being reborn. It's better to be alone. So he's always alone now, except for his ghost. One night, he sits with his head against his knees and listens to the distant snaps of gunfire. He hasn't seen anyone in about a week, but he can hear them. Somehow, that makes the loneliness worse, more potent. "Did you know?" his ghost says, bright but gentle. The purple glint of his shell reflects the half-light outside the crate. "That in the last city, they are celebrating? They call it the Dawning. It is a celebration of friendship and hope and warmth." The Guardian keeps his eyes closed and forces down his bitterness. The silence lingers between them, heavy and filled with unsaid things, until his ghost gently bumps his shoulder. "To feel good, they say to each other, 'Happy Dawning.'" Still the Guardian says nothing, and his own silence makes him sick with himself. His ghost has never doubted him. Never doubted anyone, really. He is a well of relentless optimism, and as infuriating as that is, it's also heartbreaking and comforting and a relief. The Guardian is not going to be the one to disappoint him. There's been too much disappointment in his life already. "Happy Dawning," he says. Now, I, like the next person, am not so okay with the events that transpired with Uldren. I think that ultimately he had a chip on his shoulder way before we even came into the picture, and he held contempt for Guardians as a whole. Bit of a closed-minded thinker there. All Guardians are the same, he might say. Trouble is, fill in the blank of Guardian with anything else you might like to, and the same can be heard of our real lives today. I'm sure some of you can use your imagination to know what I mean. Uldren, per this point, has no memory of who he once was. Pulled Pork has done a great number on those once memories. He's no longer the Queen's brother, at least in name, and no longer knows who his people were. In some ways, his revival was exactly what we could have expected, if the speaker was to be believed at all. Devotion, bravery, sacrifice, death. Uldren actually fits all of these merits perfectly. so it's no wonder pulled pork would believe in this now dead awoken. But the merits of the speaker and the words that he gave to ghosts is a story for another day. Does this new guardian that once was Uldren deserve the ire of his fellow lightbearers? In all reality, or at least by my opinion, no. If he remembered and was the exact same person, then perhaps he should be reminded of the road that he went down beforehand. He should be told why people see him the way that he is when he claims to be someone beyond or above all the ire given. But that's not the case here. It also goes against the general principles of any guardian, as we found with Anna Bray. Never investigate your history. That's taboo for any reason, guardian, warlord, or otherwise. What we have instead is the beginning of a tale of a guardian that is pushed out by his own. I am very familiar with the practice of isolation. I sympathize with Uldren, or this guardian once called. I am sorry for him. I mean, I would question him. I would want to know more. But at the end of the day, if he recalls nothing, then I cannot in good faith think that he is the same being that I had a hand in ending. He is not responsible for the death of a friend. So the question that I'm sure some of you will have for what this has to do with the games industry, as I mentioned early on, well, nothing, really. But they are two sides of the same general coin, which is empathy and understanding. I just feel that, like I had with the messages I've had in the past and a few videos just recently prior, most of us are familiar with and can connect with Destiny's stories. They are a platform to speak to, nothing more. And where connections can be found are all subjective and interpretive at best. I can empathize that Uldren isn't the same as he used to be, and for someone that's invested in the story and universe that is Destiny, I can appreciate that. For those in the games industry, I can empathize that I do not know the full behind-the-scenes struggle that they go through. I can empathize that Uldren isn't capable of knowing why people are upset, but has he asked the questions or why, or tried to reach out to those that could help him? In the same, has the games industry, or even Bungie, if we want to put things to more of a pinpoint, truly asked the right questions, and further, have they understood that input? Has Pulled Pork done all he could to help him? His ghost being the light that should help shine the way for him. Have we done the same for the games industries, with both actions and words? Or do we continue to say something and act completely different? In the same, are directors and developers, writers and marketers, community managers and influencers of heavy relation to the companies that they may serve, are they all on the same page? Are they simply being told, this is how it is and that's final, with no given want of input and direction? How much of it is just follow orders versus this is a grand vision that we must and need achieve? There is always a piece that we do not fully understand, I would say. For some pieces, it's more obvious than others. For some, it's just a marketing gimmick. For others, it's attempting to connect with the community that seem to care very much about a product or a universe or whatever you want to call it. Perhaps a political belief, an ideology, a side, or any other number of things that humanity likes to take up arms against or for. But at the end of the day, it's just perspective in that regard. Perspective that some really hope will be weaponized for the good of a project. The old, no publicity is bad publicity trope. Here's the other version, I suppose, of all of this. We could be mad and upset. We can rightly show why we are for a product, a universe, or world we care for, and want to see the developers and story writers succeed in all they do on this project or others. We could also be hateful and vitriolic, call for people's jobs, and expect that something we say is going to get them to lose them. One way hopes to see the games and its studios improve. The other is just hoping for a revolving door until we finally get the right people or some kind of frank, wrongful idea that doesn't work in business at all. Trust me, even at the lower levels, it doesn't work. It's true that getting the right people to do work is necessary. I would argue to say that Bungie have capable people in place, and they deserve the praise when they get it. I think that the community managers do a very good job in reflecting to us what the studio is able to say, or what the studio wants us to hear. It still doesn't mean I don't think there's work to be done, of course, and Bungie will be held accountable as time goes by. Accountable is not the same as I wish to end them, however. But just think about this. Those people have families, possibly wives, kids, husbands, a sick mother or father. They might be suffering from cancer or another disease, whatever it may be. And the more we treat those that just try to deliver a story and a world to us like robots and not like creative people that they are, well, you can see why I don't take to some comments whatsoever on YouTube here on the channel when they start to insult my grandmother or call me names or tell me I'll never go anywhere and they don't give me reasons or criticism why. You're not giving criticism. You're just spilling hot air and doing nothing to further someone's creative ideals. Though, quite frankly, it could be you just don't understand those and you probably shouldn't interject in the conversation anyway. I'd venture a guess that if this is you, you take this mentality into other parts of your life as well. And it is toxic, hateful, and not needed in 2020 whatsoever. That goes for every avenue of things. Subjectivity is good. It allows for growth and different avenues to really go by. Objectivity is ultimately what matters. Subjectivity is creativity more than much else. Objectivity is, this is the basis that we accept as a society, or something akin to that nature. For instance, what is good for humanity doesn't always align with nature. What is good for everything should be the objective fact. There is a difference between criticism and malicious behavior. I would ask that some of you please begin to learn that. Calling out work is one thing. Calling out people is another. Latching on to marketing gimmicks helps no one. Building up those that you care for and not ones that you ultimately don't agree with. I know I'm not perfect with this staple myself, but I'm trying to be going forward. That's my message for 2020 and where I stand for content going forward, actually. We'll still have plenty of fun, I am sure, in this universe that I and so many of you love. But I hope to be able to use my voice for something to try and help things along this year, and hopefully further beyond if you guys continue to deem me worthy of the words. And if I can't, oh well. I'd rather say that I tried than not do so at all. I know that I am one voice of many. I know my take is not of the communities. I'm too disconnected anymore, I guess, of those that are really out there. But there's always two sides to every coin. In some way, I hope to be able to balance them. I'm trying my best from the experiences I've had over the years playing games to offer up what could be missing, or lines and threads that need additional explanation, or things that we could add or take away, or why certain things are the way that they are. Anyway, I'll leave things here. Thanks for giving this a listen, and if it helps you to know a direction or path to take into 2020, or to be more critical and less vitriolic, then I've done good today. Being nice or genuine should not be a standout trait in our society either. It should be the norm. Thanks again, and I'll see you next space time. Take care.